James Wiseman is a 7'1" centre who is an elite athlete with a very high ceiling and probably quite a high floor as well. But will his natural tools be enough for him to thrive in the NBA system, and will he be able to develop into a more modern NBA big? Many expect him to be a top 5 pick in the 2020 draft, and most people this year earlier on had him as high as number 1. However, he has fell recently, on some mock drafts even coming in at number 6. James Wiseman is from Nashville, Tennessee, and played 3 games for Memphis this year and competed in NCAA Division 1. He averaged 19.7 points, 10.7 rebounds, 3 blocks per game. He averaged 70% from the free throw line on 9 attempts per game and had a 76% field goal percentage, which is extremely efficient despite it being a really low sample size of 3 games. These are incredible numbers for a college freshman, and it would have been interesting to see him finish the season off or even return just for a few games, and if he could have kept his stats this high and this efficient, especially on a winning team, or with the empty stats on a losing team. Let's look at his strengths. Wiseman has all the physical tools you could want in an NBA prospect. He's a legit 7-footer with a 7'6" wingspan and is a genuine athlete. He's nimble, agile, and has good leaping ability. He patrols the rim well and has great timing for blocking shots on man-to-man defense and helps out defense. He has potential to become an elite shot blocker at the next level. He has good finishing at the rim, but mainly due to his athleticism and length. He is a lefty, which can help unorthodox moves and easy buckets at times. He'll be able to excel as a rim runner and picking up garbage of misses for early finishes. The NBA's heavy pick and roll system should give James Wiseman easy mismatches and finishes. He should excel at this and be able to get lots of easy lobs and paint passes with his leaping ability. When Wiseman was at Memphis, teams only shot 33% against them on the floor, albeit he only played 69 minutes in the NCAA. It seems likely that his defensive ability will translate to the NBA's defensive 3 seconds rule, as he should be able to switch and defend more than adequately outside the paint and on switches as he gets more experience. He's pretty good on the glass, especially as an offensive rebounder, has a good nose for the ball and shows a quick second jump. Shows a soft touch around the rim as well, and a developing turnaround jumper and a decent jump hook over his right shoulder. As the base of his post moves arsenal. The foundation is there for him to make some mid-range jumpers and develop out to the 3-point range. He just needs more repetition, muscle memory, and fundamental consistency. He has the frame to carry at least 15 more pounds of muscle without the loss of mobility. This can make him a real imposing force in the NBA, at least physically. Let's talk about his weaknesses. One glaring weakness for drafting James Wiseman is the lack of sample size we have from him and the lack of game footage from high school. Having played just 3 games this year for Memphis is an extremely low sample size, and that's 3 games against elite competition. That's all we have on him. He had a great start to his NCAA career, but scouts and GMs want to know whether or not he could have been consistent throughout the season and whether he could have adjusted to defensive schemes trying to stop him. Due to being a far superior athlete in high school, there were questions floating around about Wiseman's work ethic and motor, and people argued whether or not legit NCAA competition would make or break his attitude. He is a young big man, and with that, as expected, comes raw skills. He has soft hands and a nice touch, but he's a far way away from the Porzingises and the Anthony Davises, or even the Karl Anthony Towns of the world. He reads the game pretty averagely and hasn't shown much ability to create for himself. He probably would rely on a good point guard or a good shooting guard to set him up, or even a good power forward like Draymond Green. He would probably need these to be effective and to get easy looks and finishes inside. Despite his great timing, he can sometimes hunt for the block, and this happens too much. This leads him to falling for unnecessary shot fakes and getting caught in the air too much, picking up easy fouls, and then eventually altering his and his team's gameplay. If you watch Wiseman's high school footage, you will see him knocking down threes and hitting fadeaways, which show he has the potential and touch to become a threat from the free and the mid-range. However, these are high school highlights. There's videos of Dwight Howard hitting multiple threes in a row. Putting this into a real game situation is very different and much harder to achieve. There's real concerns whether or not Wiseman can create his own offense, or will he be even able to develop to create his own offense. There is concerns that he will just become a rim runner, picking up misses for putbacks and finishing off lobs. Despite his elite athleticism, he isn't overly strong right now and will need to gain muscle mass in order to be able to compete down low of NBA bigs and last the season. He can sometimes settle for fadeaways and jumpers, where ideally you want him creating contact and putting pressure on defenses with his size and athleticism and length. Now, Wiseman does have a good feel for the game, but you can tell that he is still going through the motions in his post moves. He hasn't quite developed that second nature post move yet, someone like Nikola Jokic. Now, when he does switch on the perimeter, he gets caught guarding upright, and this is going to be a real problem at the next level. He's just relying on his athleticism, and he's relying on his length. But with the NBA switch heavy defense, he does need to get into a better stance, and he will need to become a better defender, especially on the perimeter, especially with teams like the Houston Rockets, where he's going to be guarding people probably no taller than 6'7", 6'5". Overall, Wiseman's been on the radar for quite a few years now. This is due to his clear NBA strengths that still hold value in the modern NBA. With that being said, he still has lots of areas to work on if he wants to be considered worthy of a lottery pick. He's got the physical tools, now it will come down to his work ethic and how his mentality is built, or how it can develop. In terms of who drafts him, there are certainly better landing spots for him that would aid his development much more. For example, the Golden State Warriors. If they were to pick him and keep him, he would be able to excel under a great system, a great coach, less pressure, and lots of easy looks and great teammates teaching him how to play. He would also have a lot of space, so he can even become a one-on-one post threat with kick-out options, as teams may need to double him eventually as he develops. Being in the Golden State system would allow him to have this time to develop those skills and eventually become a really big contributor. Overall, I think he's got the physical attributes needed to be a success. I think it will come down to work ethic and situation, and unfortunately, he can't control both of those. NBA comparison. I've seen a lot of people compare him to DeAndre Jordan and Hassan Whiteside, but I think he can be a better shooter and post player than both of these players if he meets his potential, and that's no disrespect to them. However, if you look at them, they haven't been exactly consistent free throw shooters their entire career, and they haven't been able to create their offense efficiently at times. I do, however, see the comparison from a physical standpoint for those guys. I think if you had some Miles Turner in that comparison, then we are starting to see who James Wiseman could be, potentially a game-altering big who can stretch the floor a bit, and be a defensive presence who can clean up the glass.